We live in a very rural area. We all know this. You can walk out the door and there's more cows than there are people. But living in a rural area also means you've most likely come across a sheep. A sheep is not necessarily God's smartest creature he's ever made. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I was at our fair. I'd eaten all the corn dogs I could eat, played all the games I could play, nothing else to do, so figured walk through the animal barn. There's a big ruckus off to the side. What? Okay, so I'm going to go check it out. I go over and look, and if you've never seen one, the rack that they will tie an animal to when they need to bathe it looks a lot like a bicycle rack. It's round and it's got some uprights, and they tie him to that. Well, the sheep was getting bathed or shaved, I'm not sure which, and it had taken a step forward and stuck its head through the bars. It was stuck. A group of people trying to spread the bars out, get this thing free. They finally were able to do it. There's the congratulate, good job, fair needs to do something to fix this. And while the congratulations are going on, the sheep took a step forward again and stuck its head right back in. Same spot. They're not very bright. The sheep is the animal that will be out in the pasture, drop its head, start eating, and then just follow its mouth. Lose everything around it. It won't know where it is, who's near it. All it knows is what's right in front of it, what it's eating. Now, the Bible refers to us as sheep quite often. It biblically could be said because it's the most common animal. And cows were around, but they were too valuable to just leave out in a pasture with one or two people guarding. But sheep were plentiful. That's the biblical reason. I have another theory. As I explained a few minutes ago, I think we are referred to as sheep because sheep are dumb. How often do we get distracted by a shiny object?
Yeah.
Who doesn't lose track of time, where they are, when they're staring at their cell phone? I was in Medford at the mall. I walked in the door. There's a bench, 4 people sitting on the bench, all 4 staring at their phones. Had no idea who was around them. People walked by, they didn't acknowledge them, anything. They were distracted by their little shiny object. So not unlike a sheep following its mouth when it eats, we follow the shiny object. And not unlike a sheep, when it follows its mouth, it gets lost. See where I'm going?
Yeah.
When we get lost, and we finally lift our heads up and realize we don't know where we are, we don't know what happened, we panic. And there's 2 types of panic. One is the God, please help me, I got lost, please. There's also the God, why did you let me get lost? Why didn't you stop me? Kind of reminds me of, if you have a Facebook, you know, you can't spend more than 5 minutes on Facebook and not come across a militant atheist. I'm not referring to just a non-believer. I have friends that are non-believers. I'm talking the militant atheist, the one that wakes up in the morning and it's their duty. They're going to school us Christians on how we are wrong. And there's always name calling and this and anyway. But their main argument is, with everything that's happening in the world, if there was a God, why doesn't he just come down and swoop it up and stop all the trouble? Well, it's a decent argument, actually, if you think about it. It's a scary world today. You watch the news. It's a scary, scary world. So it's almost understandable to ask, why doesn't God put a stop to it? I mean, it just really, as Christians, we sit back and say, oh, it's God's will. But there is a part of us that says, why is he allowing this? Now, going back to the militant atheist, like I said, there's a whole lot of name-calling, a whole lot of just, yeah. They actually ridicule not only Christians, but God himself. If God's real, why doesn't he come down and just clean all this out and make everything hunky-dory? Sounds kind of like Luke 23. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, saying, if you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. One of the criminals who was hanging there kept deriding him, saying, are you not the Messiah? Save yourself. 2,000 years, the argument has not changed. So with the world just in absolute, utmost turmoil, I'm not going to go into detail about everything, but watch the news. You know exactly what I mean. When we're in that cold, dark place, it's easy, very easy, to condemn God. Say, why did you let this happen? So, in a way, it's not much different than the atheist. Condemning. Why? Now here's the big bonus. As Christians, we know, even if we have hit our knees in that dark spot and said, please, I messed up, I got lost, please help me. Or if you're on the other side of the spectrum, we know God is there. The shepherd is there with us. We may feel alone, but we are never alone. We may feel as we are fighting the battle by ourselves, but as Christians, we know we're not. We've all been down in the depths. We've all been at the bottom. And when you do finally have to you cannot go any further. You have got yourself so lost you don't know what end is up. And you have finally come to your senses and said, Jesus, please. As he's leading you back, he has people helping clear the path. As you are coming back home, he has people cheering you on, saying, I know you were down. I'm so glad you're coming back. I'm glad to see you back. This last week, I have experienced that. I have had blessing upon blessing that I am in amazement at the people that have helped me and been there for me this week. So what this boils down to, a couple small points. One, we're sheep. We are done. Take it or leave it, that's the truth. We're done. As Christians, we are done. We get distracted easily. We follow shiny objects, and we get lost. But there's also the great shepherd who we may not understand that he is there, but no matter how lost we get, he's following along. And once we finally reach the point, do we ask for help or do we condemn? Even when we condemn, I see Jesus leaning against a tree, and waiting for us to come to our senses. Jesus will not ever force himself on us, but all we need to do is speak his name. That's all we have to do. Going back to Luke 23. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus replied, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. You notice the criminal on the other cross never asked for forgiveness, never said, please forgive me. Simply said, remember me. And he was saved. So when you're in those pits, when you're in the darkness, when you don't know where you are, what end is up, just a simple, Jesus, please help me. And he will, but hang on, because he will lead you back home, kicking and screaming, but he will lead you back home. Amen.
Amen.